Welcome back to RockCrawlinJeeps. I know we kind of skipped a week. We did some BMW stuff, and then we actually really did skip a week. We had Thanksgiving and people out of town and doing different things, but we are back. We took full advantage of Black Friday, so we have a ton of cool stuff to show you guys that we're not going to get to today, but it's going to really help with our upcoming projects and the one-ton builds. But for now, you've probably noticed this massive old chunk of iron sitting in front of me. And for those that don't know what this is a Warren 8274, also known as like the best winch ever made, period, end of discussion. These things have been around since the 70s.
So a little history lesson, the 8200 is the winch that came before the 8274. In 1974, they remodeled it, hence 8274. And if I can focus in on the date code, right there, A09. So that means January 0, first week, and 1979. So that winch is 40 years old, and we're gonna rebuild it this week.
Yeah, so he's a bit more of a tech nerd on the 8274. I've just long been a fan of them for what they're capable of doing and how reliable these things have proven to be over the past 40, 50 years. You'll get guys in Europe and rock crawling competitions that do dual motor modifications to these things, and they'll put 200 or 300 feet of synthetic line on these, and they will winch themselves out in a matter of like a minute and a half with 300 feet of line. It's incredible to see what these things are capable of. Now, we're not going to go that far. We're not going to dual motor it. We're not going to go crazy with it. But what we are going to do is bring this thing back to life, restore it to its former glory, give it a new control panel, give it some new wires, because these things are absolutely toasted. There is no life left in that. It is corroded. It is cracked. It is unsafe to even attempt to use. So what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of this nasty cable. Like, come in on that. That cable is disgusting.
It's been sitting a while.
So we'll likely get rid of that, exchange it for either some new wire, or maybe put some synthetic line on it like you saw in our last video with my Warren M8000 rebuild. So that said, we're going to get this thing off of this old hitch mount, and then we're going to start tearing into it and getting it cleaned up and ready to be brought back to life. Before we took it all apart, we wanted to go ahead and see if we could get it to work. This is an unknown condition in terms of solenoids and things like that winch. So what we did is we hooked up a battery charger to an old battery I had laying around, and then we ran jumper cables from there to the solenoid pack. What we learned is we're getting power, but nothing's happening. So I forget the actual method, and we're going to look it up, and I'll tell y'all. But we're going to remove the solenoid pack completely, and then there's a way that you can jumper these to test directly with the motor, and that's what we're going to do. So that said, we're going to go ahead and pull these wires off. Man, that is on there. Might have to get a wrench. But these posts are able to spin, so we'll grab a wrench, put it on the bottom, and then we'll get it all taken apart. We've gotten everything figured out, and as you can see, we dived into the electrical pretty hard, from test light to multimeter to a couple different batteries. And what I've learned is this thing tries to draw so much current that my tender and a lawnmower battery, because this other battery we pulled out of a parts truck that I've got sitting outside is just completely dead, is not enough. When we connect our, we've got a jumper wire here, just when we connect this little jumper wire right here like this, it kills that because the amp draw is so high. So it's just trying to draw a bunch of power, and we don't have a way to give it to it out here. And quite honestly, we're not lugging this heavy thing outside to go like hook the jumper cables to my Cummins or something like that. It's just not worth it. We're 99.99% certain that this motor is absolutely fine. We will take a look at it when we pull the whole winch apart just to verify, double check, grease, and service it. So that said, we're going to move past this setup. If anybody was curious, negative here, positive here, and then you jumper between A and F1, and that gives you your ability to go in and out. we tried it. We don't have the right amount of power out here, and it's just not worth it for us to go find that power. So now we're gonna pull it off the plate, unspool this wire, and get into cleaning this thing up and tearing it down. And then we've got a bunch of good seals, springs, bearings, all sorts of fun stuff from Warren and Master to give us exactly what we need. So let's get this thing torn down. As you can see, it's gotten a lot smaller. It's definitely not small, but it's gotten a lot smaller. So we ditched our plate, we ditched our cable, we ditched the fairlead. We're gonna go through and inspect this cable. It may be usable for a little bit, get it cleaned up. It does have a few small kinks in it and stuff, but we'll give it a look and see if we feel comfortable using it. If not, grab some new steel cable, it's pretty cheap. Or maybe look at an upgrade to some synthetic, especially on this, it'll free up a ton of room. You can go to like 200 feet. So let's get back over here and we'll show you exactly what we're doing. So over here, there's 3 bolts, and these 3 bolts live kind of like this. There's one more up front over here. So we got those taken out. That's a 1/4 inch Allen for anybody that's curious. We went ahead and pulled those, and now we're going to look into getting this motor section off. The top part, that'll get us into the gearing in here, and that'll really let this rebuild get started. We've made it even smaller. So we went ahead and removed our motor, and we've removed our disengage. So the engage disengage is very, very simple. It's just that. It's kind of hard to do when it's out of the winch. There it goes. So what we'll do is we'll just clean all this crap up. It's been RTV'd in the past. So we'll clean all that up, and we'll basically just pop that back in. It's not really a maintenance item or a wear item. It's just an item. So, and then here we've got our motor. Not bad for 40 years. So there is all of your connections. And then there's your motor. And this thing still spins wonderfully. So we're really not worried about that. We're not really gonna mess with it. All we're gonna do is blow it out, clean it out, put it back on.
Maybe add a little grease to it.
Maybe some dielectric or something in there, but not super concerned about that. So now we're gonna go ahead and separate the case halves. And there's a bearing on this side. And we've got this wonderful fag unit here to replace it with. See, fag. Fag bearings, y'all. So we're gonna go ahead and replace it. Actually use these a lot at work on the Sierra car projects. So very familiar with their bearings, had great success with their bearings. We're gonna go ahead and use this to swap that one out that's 40 years old. So we'll get that popped out, we'll get the case halves separated, and then we'll show you where we're at.
Look how easy it was to separate the case half. All right, I lied. So a little bit of torch heat, and when I say torch, I'm talking a small little propane, just heat up the seal, a little screwdriver and hammer, and a pipe wrench, and we broke it free. So if you want to move in here, so this is the inner workings of an 8274, all gear driven. So we actually brake cleaned it, but it's oil bath to keep it all nice and lubricated. But pretty cool to see 40-year-old technology, or even older than that, but just how smooth that is. So we're going to continue to strip this down. We have this guy to remove, and this, and then that gear set is going to pop out, and then we're going to give it a nice soak.
Yeah, and the other cool thing I kind of want to note on this is we found an old repair. So this winch at one time or another cracked the case. They re-welded it, and you can see some of the repair job there. It isn't the best, but we'll clean it up. And that's pretty accurate to how the inside looked. A little dirty, little nasty, but we'll get it all cleaned back up. But yeah, I mean, this thing is it's in really good shape. No surprises.
Yeah.
Well, aside from the weld surprise, but no surprises that said, "Oh crap, we got a dud." So let's get back to it. We're going to see about pulling this off here this is the brake assembly?
Brake pawl, I believe.
Oh, it's the paw here. Yeah. So this is spring loaded. And when these things run, you hear them running like that. And then when it stops, it catches on that paw there. You can kind of see it drop back in every time. So when it stops, that's what keeps it from free spooling. So we're going to go ahead and take apart that assembly, and then we're going to pull the gear set. All right, so all we're doing right here is this thing is a very tight, like it's got some corrosion on it, press fit. So we are attempting to get some heat in it so we can remove it without having to pry on the other side of it. So we're going to get some heat on it and see if we can't get it removed. But definitely something to keep in mind. You don't want to pry on all this stuff because it's old, some of it's casted, some of it's aluminum. And if you pry on it, well, you may crack it. And then you're stuck welding 50-year-old casted metal. And that's not something anybody really wants to do. There's some nasty junk in here. The grease keeps catching on fire and then like putting my torch out. All right, guys. Well, that wraps it up for today. We have our controller pack that we are definitely not reusing. Our motor, which we are most definitely reusing. All of our hardware that we're soaking in mineral spirits. The old hook that is definitely going to be retired. That has seen better days.
Factor 55 hit me up.
Yeah, love to run some of their stuff. And then we have the rest of the winch soaking in a bucket. So this is just mineral spirits. It's the same thing you'd put in a parts washer. We don't have a parts washer yet. So we're putting stuff in a 5-gallon bucket. We're going to let it soak overnight. We're going to come back out here tomorrow. We have a couple of nylon brushes and some Scotch-Brite, and we're just going to scrub it down, get it put back together. It's pretty simple teardown. We have all of our seals, our bearings, another bearing, and then an inside rebuild kit with all the springs and bearings and snap rings and everything like that from Warren to rebuild this. And today, while we were doing this, we discovered just how bad that actually is. And now we're really thinking about upgrading this to an Albright solenoid, which if you've watched our other winch rebuild video right here, you'll notice we switched that up from a solenoid pack to an Albright as well. A lot of benefits there. If you want to hear me talk more about that, just go watch the other video. But it seems a lot of people convert these as well. So we're going to dig into that, see what we need to know, see what we need to order, and make this kind of a retro winch where, yeah, it looks old, but inside, behind this plastic cover, it's going to be new technology and it's going to work awesome and have a lot less issues than all those solenoid packs. So as always, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification button, and find 30 people to follow us. We are 30 people away from 1,000. Help us hit that number. We haven't decided what we're doing, but we're going to try and do something cool when we hit that 1,000 mark. So hopefully in the next week we hit it. And as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.